Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Oh, hi and welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. I hope you're doing okay and getting the results with your team. On this show, I talk all things management, communication, leadership and much, much more. I'm your host, Matthew Haddock, and today we're diving into something we all face at some point in our leadership career, the tough meeting. Whether it's a high-pressure conversation with a client, a disagreement with a colleague, delivering some bad news to a team, or the dreaded board meeting where results are not good, tough meetings are always, tough. But they don't have to derail your day, your year, or your confidence. So let's break it down. How do we handle those moments like a Manager Matt Pro with some mindset tips, proactive strategy, and even a few things to try to avoid? Well, firstly, let's think about, before we get to the meeting, what mindset do you need and what preparations do you want to be before you go into that meeting? First off, mindset. What do I mean by that? Well, going into any meeting, it really matters. If you go into a tough meeting expecting a disaster, it's going to be awful, they're going to be an absolute pain, then your brain already braces for a fight. So it starts to get the adrenaline going, you start to be perspiring, you get all of yourself ate up. Instead, shift into a mindset of curiosity, of trying to be curious, to be a problem solver. Your job is to deliver results and to face reality if things aren't going your way, but you're really there to deliver results, as I've said, but also solve problems. So take the opportunity in this first part of getting prepared to look at what problems you could solve. And then, of course, there's a few basics you need to know before you go into that meeting. Prepare, but don't be obsessive. Know the key facts, the goal or the potential objectives that you're going to go into that meeting about. Know your numbers. It doesn't matter which level inside a business, when people talk about success, they'll talk about people at the centre and putting people first and all that good stuff. But remember, numbers are results and results matter. Now remember, when you're going in there, don't rehearse it exactly like a script. You don't want to be reading it out and feeling all wooden. You need to be yourself. So you should be as natural as you can, but know the key takeaways and be prepared and professional before you get in there. Assume a positive intent. And I know that's difficult because the human brain has a habit of saying everyone's out to get you. But unless there's a strong reason to believe otherwise, assume the other person or the group of people are out there to get you. They're just working with their own pressures and priorities. As they say, crap rolls downhill. So if your leaders are getting it and they're really pushing you hard, that's because they're getting it from their bosses and their leaders. And remember, as a leader, you've always got to have broad shoulders to be able to be accountable and take these things on board. So if you are in a tough meeting and your results aren't great, you're going to have to assume that there's a positive intent to get better, but also assume that at some point the buck is going to stop. And that could be with you. When you're in the meeting or before you get into the meeting, regulate yourself. Remember to do breathing, take a walk beforehand, write down any key notes so your brain can get used to it, and walk into the meeting calm, as normal, and collective. And don't forget the human touches. The silence before a meeting can be deafening. We've all been in those meetings where it's just silence. Why not just do as you normally would do if you walk in a room? Make small talk, talk about things, have a coffee, sit down, get comfortable. And these are things you can do before the meeting. So let's look at during the meeting. Okay, now you're in the meeting. Things may be feeling a bit tense, but this is where your communication skills really need to shine. And here are some of the do's and don'ts when you're in this position. Make sure you listen more than you talk, and that is an old saying. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Let the other person speak. Sometimes just letting that person feel they've been heard goes a long way, especially if they're the leader of the business. They might want to get a point over. So don't interrupt, listen to them. Of course, on the back of that, do ask questions, especially open-ended ones. Can you walk me through how that looks from your point of view is a great question. Remember, you're not looking at confrontation. What's the biggest concern here is a good one. Now, you could get someone turning around going, well, if you don't know, I don't know who is going to know. Now, that's quite unprofessional and immature for the other person if they say something like that. Or, well, the results aren't good anyway, let's not bother. Those kind of things don't really help. But you be professional. You're going to ask those questions. Do clarify and restate. Say the things that you are going to say. Make sure you put it over. So one way of saying is, what I'm hearing here is, or let me make sure I understand what you're saying. Again, you're just trying to reset and go forward. You can also do things like, well, can I build on what you're saying there? Again, these are all positive ways to handle a person, especially if it's tense. Now let's look at the don'ts. Well, surprisingly, they're very much the opposite. Don't interrupt. Even if you know that the person is wrong, you've got to let them finish. You have to make sure that they have got their point over and almost said what they need to do, especially if it is your boss and it's a tough meeting. You interrupting them and trying to correct them is not going to help your court in regards to what you're trying to say. Don't get defensive. The last thing you want to do is, I don't think this is fair. Can I just say, why are you doing it that way around? Again, it's just going to get the back of that person up. It's just going to start to have that spiral of non-professionalism. Remember, this is a business setting. You're in a business meeting. Both parties should be respected. You might not value that person that much. You might think they're a clown. We've been in meetings where your bosses are clowns, haven't you? I mean, sometimes you wonder, how has that moron got that promotion? How has that person got to that level with the way they act? That's fine. That's not your issue. What you've got to be is, you've got to be professional. Don't get defensive. It just drives it into an argument. And this is not an argument. You should never be arguing at work. You're there to do a job. You're there to deliver results. You're there to solve a problem. You're not there to argue. Don't over-apologise. There's something else not to look at. Be accountable. Yeah, of course you are. But don't crumble and just go, oh, I hear what you're saying. Thank you. Oh, dear, I'm really sorry. That's not your point. Don't start to grovel. You're a professional leader. You're there for a reason. If you're at a certain level, you've earned your stripes. You've been through the trenches. And the person on the other side might not have. But they're trying to enforce themselves on you. So don't over-apologise. You know your numbers. You've done your preparation. You know the reasons, even if it's not good. And as a professional, you know the way out of it. You can find a route. So that's the meeting done. It's been awful. Sometimes tough. You've walked out and you feel like you've got a kick in. But what do you do after the meeting? Well, you made it through it, so that's a good thing. You might walk away and think, well, I don't think I've done great there. I don't think that person, especially if it's your boss, is going to really respect me. If you've delivered bad news, fortunately, you might be the baddie. That comes with the territory as well. But after the meeting, make sure you take time to reflect. What did go well? There must be some positives in there. What would you have done differently next time? If it's a reoccurring meeting, it's going to come back round. So you're going to have time to prepare for the next one and do it better. Have a follow-up, maybe some sort of short recap or next steps. If someone's done the minutes, especially if there's actions, read them. Make sure you're actioning them well before the next meeting. What I do see a lot of people, don't read the actions from meetings and then go into the next meeting without being prepared. And that's the worst thing you can do. Your manager soon sees through that and really hates the fact that you've not done the groundwork after it. There's time to decompress as well. That might be, again, after a tough, draining meeting, take 5-10 minutes, have a rest before jumping into your next lot of work. It could be going for that walk. It could be ringing somebody outside of work, a mate, a family member, and having a good chat about what's gone wrong. Look for some positives in there. If it has been a bad meeting, you're a grown-up and it happens, but sometimes you might just, go to speak to one of your peers and discuss it through with them. Not to bitch, just to talk through and see if you've really got the right or wrong end of it. So let's just have a quick recap and let's sum up what we've just been talking about. Go into the meeting with the right mindset. Be calm, be curious, but be prepared. Communicate clearly. Listen, ask, and clarify whilst in the meeting. And after the meeting, reflect on what you've heard, follow up, and next time, remember that you're ready for the meeting again. Because one meeting is always part of that big journey to get better as a leader and a manager. Now, of course, if you want me to get better as a leader and a manager, I'd like you to send me some feedback to managermattpodcast@gmail.com. I do answer all the emails, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on tough meetings or anything else you've liked in the show. And of course, remember, if you do like the show, share it with other people. Currently, I'm having a real massive amount of downloads, which is brilliant. Some people are listening to some really classic shows and giving me feedback on that. But if you've not had a chance, either go in and subscribe so you get another episode if it's the first time you've listened, like it, share it with other managers or other people that might get a lot out of it. There's loads of other topics to come in the future, and there's a back catalogue to go have a listen to, and it's all free. And all the Yorkshire people love free things. Well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.